Good morning and welcome to another session of iProsTV. I am your host, Juan Gallardo, President and CEO of iPros Insurance Professionals. And today's topic, CMS recently released the 2023 final rule, in which includes two requirements that will have a significant impact on independent agents and brokers who sell Medicare Advantage and or Part D plans. While the marketing guideline changes are for calendar year 2023, they go into effect October 1st, 2022, just before the start of the 2023 annual election period for Medicare Advantage and Medicare Part D plans. In today's session, we're going to dive deep on the reasons for these changes, how they directly impact you as an iPros agent, and the technology that iPros is rolling out in time for the 10/1 effective date, which is right around the corner. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about the disclaimer and recording requirements. Today's special guest, we have none other than Sandy D'Elia, Vice President of Sales at Blue Shield of California. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're going to help explain all of this noise out in the marketplace around the recording?
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. In addition to Sandy, we are going to have Jason Schmittgens, which he's going to kill me for the pronunciation. Jason, I'm deeply sorry, but I have always difficulty pronouncing your last name. But our partner, Jason from Connecture, he's an account executive who will be providing a demo on the recording technology that you will have at your disposal to comply with this new CMS ruling before the effective date 10/1, which is right around the corner. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be reviewing today. There are going to be a lot of follow-up sessions between now and October 1st and after October 1st to make sure that you're well trained on the technology that you'll have at your disposal. So what do you say we dive right into?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So Sandy, why don't we start by providing us with some insight on why CMS went down this road? I know this is something that caught us by surprise, but what are your thoughts? What do you know?
Yeah, I think it's controversial for people, but it really comes down to what CMS has said is that they've received over the last several years, exactly how many years is still sort of being debated, but over the last several years, an increase in CTMs that are specifically towards the marketing component to Medicare beneficiaries. And what that's done is it's made them think about the process of marketing, what we as brokers do or agents do, and what they call TPMOs, which are FMOs in our language.
Okay. And speaking about our language, I'm sorry to cut you off there. CTM, because we do have some new agents that have joined iPros. Can you tell us about what a CTM is?
A CTM is basically a complaint. To make it really simple, it's a complaint that goes directly to CMS. When the member calls CMS directly, has a complaint, they log the complaint, and then they investigate it. And what they do is they call the carrier first. See, CMS holds the carrier accountable for basically all complaints that come into CMS. And when it goes to the carrier has to have a process that's approved by the company and CMS that goes through the investigative phase. And what that does is we, at Blue Shield of California, we have a template. We will contact the broker manager, log the complaint, obviously, contact the broker manager will contact the FMO and or the agent, get the responsiveness from the agent, get any recordings, and then give it back to the organization. And then the organization determines, based on the investigation, whether it's substantiated or not. Okay. If it's substantiated, could be disciplinary action, there could be training,
corrective action
plan. If it's not substantiated, nothing happens, basically, right? And we get back to CMS. That's the investigative process. So what they're basically saying is that they've received an increase in complaints that are troublesome to them. They feel that the marketing pieces and actual conversations that we have with Medicare beneficiaries is somewhat misleading and causing a lot of confusion to the point where they don't believe that that the Medicare beneficiaries being provided the guidance that they would like. So, given that, they've made decisions that we're going to talk about today that are quite revolutionary in the industry because it affects the way we do business, basically.
It really does. And to me, as I read through the guidelines, it applies more towards the call center model. What are your thoughts around that?
I think, the call center model is actually an advantage, in my opinion, because call centers for years in Medicare have had to record all their calls. So when you're really thinking about a call center, a traditional call center, you're outbounding or you receive inbound calls, you record everything, which is the heart of what CMS wants us to do, right, is record all calls. So I think it's more difficult to apply it to the direct agent. The agent that's the street level agent that's building their book of business, that is associated with an FMO like iPros. That's where the degree of difficulty is. And that's where the FMO steps in, like you guys are, and offering technical solutions that make their lives easier to be able to comply and feel good about the business and feel good about building their book and continuing in the industry.
That's great information. And our model is grassroots. It's provider outreach. So a lot of 99.9% of the contact that we're having with Medicare beneficiaries is direct. So we're going to dive deep a little bit later in this session on how this impacts our particular agents, right? Because to me, as I read into the guidelines, it's my analysis is that it's around these large call centers, the Joe Namath commercial type call centers versus our grassroots provider outreach.
Well, I think that that's what everybody says, right? People say that the Joe Namath commercials caused some of this, and I'm not sure what caused it. What is true to CMS is that the complaint level has gone up.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Well, let's follow the agenda here as we're moving on. Let's talk about the new disclaimer requirements. I know that for those agents that are printing material, they're out there distributing their flyers. There has to be specific disclaimers now that we need to be using.
Yeah. So the disclaimers have to do with making sure that the Medicare beneficiary understands that you represent all carriers and that you may not be representing all carriers within their geography and that you are representing carriers that fulfill the geography that they're in. That's the main disclaimer. And you can provide as an FMO the exact verbiage that needs to go on the materials. But in essence, that's what CMS wants, is a disclaimer verbally or in writing that orients the consumer, the Medicare beneficiary, that you're only going to talk about those plans that you represent within their geography that you could offer them. That's
Great.
The main disclaimer right there.
And we are going to have that available to all our agents. Just for your reference, the disclaimer consists of we do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-Medicare to get information on all your options. That's going to be critical because not all our agents are certified with all the plans. And I think this is the new reality.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's some key words in there. In your area is one. Go to Medicare.gov for all your options is going to be another one because CMS is going to listen for that. So we're best to abide by it.
And some of those guidelines is it must be verbally conveyed within the first few minutes of the sales phone call. So if you're calling on a lead that you picked up through one of your community outreach events, that's something that right off the bat you got to disclaim. Electronically, it needs to be conveyed when communicating with a beneficiary through email, an online chat, or other electronic means of communication, which is a new age. I know with the pandemic, the senior community has become more comfortable with technology. So this is something that we need to take into consideration. It needs to be prominently displayed on your website. And all materials, as usual, need to be in 12-point font available to our clients. And again, it's very rare that agents are certified with all the plans. This is something that we got to get used to very, very quickly. Sandy, can you tell us about the recording requirements? What do you know about the recording requirements? I know you shared with me before this session a nifty tool that you've put together to really give us some guidance on the do's and don'ts around recording.
Right. So the do's is we must record all calls. That means educational calls, sales calls. From the moment you start, hello, my name is, the call needs to be recorded. And you're best to do that because it will provide you with a safe haven, so to speak, if you are audited, right? So all calls need to be recorded regardless of whether they're educational or you're actually enrolling, right? So that's key.
Yeah.
The other is within the first minute, you need to say this call is being recorded. If the client does not want to be recorded, it needs to be notated. And there are subsequent questions that carriers are asking CMS in terms of if the client doesn't want to be recorded, if, what happens if they don't want to be recorded. So there's still some outstanding process questions that carriers are still asking, and we're waiting for responses. And sometimes CMS is somewhat ambiguous in terms of their responses.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So within that ambiguity, I go to the safe side and I say, if the client doesn't want to be recorded, indicate in that recording the client does not want to be recorded. I am stopping the recording. Because if you're audited and the carrier asks for the recording, it'll say there that the client did not want to be recorded. So
Are you expected to walk away from that presentation, or what?
No, I mean, CMS doesn't give the guideline that you're expected to walk away. So it's ambiguous. So you just need to make notice that the client does not want to be recorded.
And I think from a educating the beneficiary perspective, I would assume it's okay to let them know that there are new rules that have come down to protect them as consumers.
Absolutely.
And that as a result of poor practices in the industry around Medicare beneficiaries, the regulatory agency, CMS, is now requiring that we record our call to protect you. So as part of my script, I'm going to ask you, can you record it? And if you feel comfortable, but we're not going to say anything outside of the scope, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's Medicare benefits. So I think we can prepare the client.
I think we can prepare the client. What I would be cautious is in setting the call up so that the client says, I don't want to be recorded. Right?
Got it.
So let's not play with it.
With the rules.
Right. The rules are the rules. So I would say, hello, my name is Sandy D'Elia. You're calling Blue Shield of California. This call is recorded. As a matter of fact, our call center, our telesales agents, that's exactly what they say. My name is Sandy D'Elia. You're calling Blue Shield of California. This call is recorded. Hi, how may I help you today? If the client says, I don't want to be recorded, that's fine. So noted, the client does not want to be recorded. The recording is stopped, and the agent continues.
And this reminds me of back when I first started in the industry, way back when, and during the Medicaid sales, when they first initiated the two-plan model in LA County, we were required to record the calls, and I don't remember ever having an issue with that. As long as the client is informed of the reasons why we're recording. I truly don't feel that we need to get into conversations or steering the beneficiary, coaching the beneficiary into say that
they don't want to be
recorded, which to me as a consumer would automatically send red flags, right?
Exactly.
As a consumer, and I've always considered the Medicare sales really an educational process, a counseling process.
Absolutely.
There is no sale.
Right.
It's really an educational process, linking their doctor, their benefits, et cetera. So in my view, I think it probably weeds out the bad apples for me. So I'm really excited about it because we do know that unfortunately there are some bad apples in our industry that are conducting an in-home presentation in 10 minutes or less, which how can you walk away comfortably just in and out, right? So I think this is going to weed out some of those bad apples that are really not doing a professional job when it comes to providing the services. Do you mind if we just touch quickly on some of the do's here?
Absolutely.
So we have on the you must record all calls with beneficiaries in their entirety, including educational and casual conversations with beneficiaries via personal cell phone. Now, I want to just touch on something real quick, Sandy. I know that being that we do face-to-face applications, enrollment forms at events, CMS approved situations. As I understand it, if it's face-to-face, we do not need to record.
Now, face-to-face meetings, so in-home appointments, if you meet with somebody at a Starbucks, if you go to an event, if you go to a health fair, anything that's face-to-face that you're sitting down with a client and doing a presentation does not need to be recorded.
Okay. Now, it's important to clarify, agents, that Let's say, for example, you had an event this weekend, you walked away with a referral card, somebody requesting more information. At the time that you contact that beneficiary to set up your in-home appointment,
it needs to be recorded.
That needs to be recorded.
Yeah. And the scope of appointment has not changed. So
Same
the rules
process for
around
SOW?
the scope of appointment are the same. So just because we now record doesn't mean that we don't get a scope of appointment. So it's the same.
Okay.
That hasn't changed.
So really important, agents, when you're calling to set up your in-home appointment, you're calling to probe, to prospect, to make sure that you have the doctor in the network, that you have the prescription as part of the formulary. Those conversations need to be recorded, which are very natural conversations.
Right.
They're nothing that you need to be concerned about as an agent, because you're required to ask those probing questions around an enrollment.
It's needs assessment.
It's a needs assessment. Thank you. I was looking for the word. That's why you're the professional. It's a needs assessment, right? Once you're doing your needs assessment, that's just a natural conversation. You must record all virtual sales. We do have a very limited group of agents that conduct virtual sales. Again, the majority of our agents are face-to-face.
With Blue Shield, we do a lot of virtual meetings, and we have presenters that are brokers, right? That we have gathered over the last several years that like to present for Blue Shield. And there's always a broker manager on that virtual meeting with the agent behind the scenes. Those meetings automatically will be recorded. So they don't have to worry if your agents are either chosen, because some of them are actually chosen because we've observed how well they do in a normal setting, in a face-to-face setting. Some like it, they feel they're comfortable with it. So if you're doing a presentation for Blue Shield virtually, you will always have a broker manager with you, because we set the call up, we run the stuff behind the scenes. You need to do the presentation. You just focus on the presentation, and we will record those meetings. But if you're alone and you decide to do a mailing on your own to your book of business, your agent book of business, for example, and you decide to do a virtual meeting with those clients, you need to record that virtual meeting.
And in today's world, all those various virtual platforms, Zoom, have a recording.
Yeah, you just press the button.
No excuse at this point to say, oops, I forgot.
Right.
So if you are
People may forget, but try not to.
Right? Yeah. And if you are using anything outside of Zoom, do your research, make sure that the recording capability is available. So must use third-party marketing organizations.
Well, if I could stop you for a minute. The recordings need to be kept for 10 years. That's an important component. It's the same as the scope of appointment. You know how the scope of appointment, you need to keep it, or applications, all that. This needs to be kept for 10 years. So that's an important component of what FMOs and brokers are talking about, because how do you keep those? Where do you house them? And I have to say that the carriers, again, are held accountable for this. CMS is not going to go to the FMO. They're not going to go directly to the broker. They're going to go to the carrier. And the carrier, what we will do, we will roll out a process, which is very simple. It's the same process that I described earlier. It's the same for recordings. And what we're going to do is we're going to notify the FMO and say, hey, Juan, I need 10 recordings. Can you send me 10 recordings, random? And then you'll send the 10 recordings, and we will listen to the 10 recordings, document. If we find something, we'll contact you back. Contact the agent, have a conversation, what we found, we'll listen to the recording, and then go from there. Since this is a new process, this is the way we've decided at Blue Shield of California to manage it, to incorporate it in our already existing CTM process and already monitoring process, because we monitor virtual meetings, we monitor physical meetings. So this is no different.
But we're ready.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
Ready. We have our technology in place. We're continuing with our partnership through Connecture, which powers our quoting enrollment tool. So we're ready to go live 10/1. Again, after our session with Sandy, Jason's going to dive deeper on our technology, which includes housing the information, the data, and the recordings for 10 years. So we're happy to say that we're well ahead of the game when it comes to that. We're not going to touch on the TPMO because that's not our model. Must disclose to the plan any subcontract relationships used for marketing, lead generation, and enrollment. which again, we do a lot of organic outreach. If you're buying mailing lists for this AEP, when you reach out to those leads, once again, you need to make sure you're recording that call.
So I think that for the FMO, if you use different partners for lead generation, you have to disclose that to the carrier.
Okay.
That's the difference in the
But
ruling.
from an independent agent doing them on their own, they themselves have to report that to?
They do if they're asked.
If they're asked.
Right? So again, here's the ambiguity, but I would keep that information just like you keep your taxes and receipts. I would keep this in a folder so that when you're asked, you provide it, and that's it.
Awesome. Well, we're going to send out an iPros communication about the dues. But let's touch quickly on the don'ts. I'm assuming, Rodrigo, we have a couple of questions in queue, I'm hoping, with such an important topic. But let's talk a little bit about the don'ts. Do not record conversations without prior consent from the beneficiary. We talk about, I feel it's okay to let the consumer know the reasons behind the recording and that you are going to be asked to disclose that you're in agreement. Should not be a problem. I'm personally not losing sleep around this new guidelines of our industry being dramatically impacted. We just need to be prepared, transparent, have the technologies that we're tracking. Do not submit recordings to the plan without prior audit requests.
I don't think anybody's going to do that.
Yeah, nobody's going to do that, but you never know. You never know. But know that we do have the technology in place to be prepared in an event that an organization like Blue Shield that's taking a proactive approach by randomly calling to say, hey, here's 10 samples. We want to hear the recording, so we will be prepared, but we need you as an agent to be prepared and compliant. So don't take it for granted. There's nothing to hide. Go ahead and make sure you're at 100% on your recordings. Not required to record, and this is important, not required to record in-person sales. Examples, sales seminars, and in-home appointments and educational activities. This is huge for iPros because we were talking about our model, and you're very much aware of our model, but we were chatting on some of the dynamics of the PCP outreach and so forth. Heavy percentage we do face-to-face, which is good. And I can tell you, in the 10 years that we've been in operation, going on 10 years that we've been in operation here at iPros, we've had unsubstantiated allegations, and really have resulted in not understanding the information clearly. But up to this point, we're running at 100%. We've never had to cut ties with any agent or that we've been sanctioned. So we're really proud about that because we really push CMS compliance at 100%. Rodrigo, any questions out there that we can address?
We do have a question. Sorry. We have a question from Maria Cepeda. She's asking, will there be an app so if the agent is out in the field, they can still record the calls?
The answer is yes, and we're going to get more into detail on that with Jason, but there is a mobile app as well as a laptop function as well, Rodrigo, correct? In our trainings that we've had?
That is correct.
Yeah,
that is correct.
So yeah, you're going to have all the bells and whistles and connectivity that you need to make sure that you're recording the calls.
And another question, she's asking, do phone and virtual sales in another language need recording?
Yes.
See, we.
Yes, see, we.
Yes. Every regardless of the language, everything needs to be recorded. I think I would dare to say that it's even more critical.
Right.
More important when it's not English.
Yeah. And I think to be on the safe side, I would, just follow the guideline for all languages, period.
Yeah.
I see people raising their hand. I see that we have Lou and Araceli raising their hands. If you can submit the questions using the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, because we're not able to open the microphones for attendees. But go ahead and submit your questions on the Q&A box, and then we'll go ahead and review them live.
What other questions do we have?
That's it. No further questions until they submit them on the Q&A.
Well, that's a good thing. That means that we're really thorough. That means that we're really clear on what needs to happen out there. We will have follow-up sessions. Like I said, this is not the first session. It's going to be a series. I'm sure that there's going to be lots of new nuances I'm sure that the plans are going to be advocating for agents when there's things that...
Yeah, I think the main thing is to, when you guys get with Connecture and all that is installed, or however you call it, I would practice, right? Practice before 10-1, because on 10-1 is when all this starts.
Goes live.
It goes live, and you want to feel comfortable with it on 10-1. When you're calling a consumer, a Medicare beneficiary, and you go, oh my God, what do I press? Da, da, da. So I would practice it with anybody and just use the technology to see how comfortable you are and if you have any questions. That's the main thing, because there's only a couple of things that you got to remember. It's the disclaimer, the fact that they have to be recorded.
Yeah. Well, great information, Sandy. Thank you for putting us at ease. I know when the ruling first came out, I panicked a little bit, especially the reaction from the agents. But as the dust settles, I think we're going to be okay. I think, again, it puts us as agent professionals ahead of the game as we're doing the right thing for our clients. And on the technical side, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. We have Jason coming up in the next session, which will dive deeper on the technical component. And Rodrigo Estevez will take the lead from here, addressing questions and working with Jason. So with that, Sandy, again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Your busy schedule. I know you're very
I love
busy,
it.
and hope to have you again soon.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so we're going to take a quick break, a quick pause, and transition over to Jason with Connecture. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
That's why the team.
Hi, Jason. Are you there?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, thank you for joining. And I know that we have a lot of questions still, but I think once you go through your demo, a lot of those questions are going to be answered. Before Juan leaves, so I'm just going to go reviewing the questions, and then whenever you're ready, go ahead and start sharing your presentation, and then we can dive into it. So Yingming Peng is asking, how do we link a recording to a member? I know that that answer will be in Jason's presentation. Next question is, if enrolling in person but using online form, what will be our means of recording, or where shall we get our scope of appointment form? That will also be answered in Jason's presentation. Next question is, can we carry and use our own recording device? That's a good question. I don't have the answer. So people are asking if they can carry their own recording device.
This is David. Let me chime in there. You could, but keep in mind, right? It needs to be HIPAA compliant. You also need to store that recording for 10 years. So keep that in mind as far as the regulations are concerned.
It's a memento.
Yep. Thank you. Next question is either link recording to a member. Okay, that was a follow-up to the question he previously submitted. We have a question in Spanish from Liliana. So for all non-Spanish speakers, she's asking, how will the SOA work? Jason will be addressing that in the presentation as well. Next question is, do we have the software to link recordings to a member? Okay, that was a repeated question. And Manny's asking, does the 10-1 effective date apply to all applications or only those effective 1/2023? Jason will be answering that as well. And I think we're ready, Jason, whenever. Those are all the questions. Just wanted to make sure that we're not leaving out any questions for the previous session. So you can go ahead and share your screen.
Excellent. Thank you, Rodrigo. All right. Can you confirm that you're able to see my screen here on the health plan cart login page?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Excellent. So very excited to be showing you the technology that iPros is rolling out in the health plan cart platform to be able to record your interactions with beneficiaries come 10-1 for your 1/1/2023 effective date enrollments. This will be on the plan year 2023 site, so it will be for all your enrollments during AEP. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here as my test user. And when just a couple of things to refresh on, right? So when we first log in, we're going to see our dashboard. So we'll be able to see any outstanding items we have here. One thing just on the eve of AEP here that I want to stress, when you come into your account overview, you will be able to upload a profile picture. So if you are sending outbound communications, it's a nice way to add a little personalized touch. And you also have your personalized shopping link here as well. And then down below, you will be able to see your active selling permission. So it's always best practice to go in and confirm that all the plans that you're certified and licensed to sell through iPros are loaded here when you're getting going during the shopping period here. But now I'll move on to sort of the main focus of our presentation today, which is going to be the new call recording feature. So I'm going to go in and search a beneficiary that I have already created. And once I do search that beneficiary, I will obviously pull up any matches, but I'm going to select the one that I created here today. Once I am on a client profile, you will notice new this year that the start call recording button will appear here in the top right corner. So I do have to be working on a specific beneficiary's profile for this button to appear. I don't necessarily have to be on the profile page itself, but a good way to know that I am working with or on a specific beneficiary's profile is by seeing their name in the top right corner just below my agent username. So if I want to initiate a call from the profile here so I can continue on to do things like a telephonic scope of appointment or adding their preferences and ultimately going all the way through the enrollment, I will go ahead and select Start Call Recording. And it's going to be very important to note here this phone number. This is going to be a phone number tied to you as the agent. So this will not change for anytime you're making a call to a beneficiary. So if you're going to letting a beneficiary know that you have to record a call with the new CMS rule, this 888-534, the number will differ by agent, but for me, this is going to be the same phone number that I call from every time I use the platform. Second thing, we'll just want to confirm the beneficiary's phone number is accurate here that we've tied to their profile so that when we do go ahead and call out to the beneficiary, we can see that it is ringing. So the phone call is ringing out to the beneficiary now. We will let them know, obviously, what number to be expecting a call from, and I'm answering the call here. The beneficiary is going to receive a message that says, this call may be recorded for quality and training purposes. They will need to press 1 to agree to be recorded, and once they do that, you can see that the call is in progress, and we can continue on in the process. Another important piece of the functionality, just to ensure that our call remains in progress and we don't get disconnected, the static call box here is going to remain on each page as we navigate throughout the system. So if I want to now, continue on to the scope of appointment form, if I'm doing a remote meeting here on this recorded line, I can now actually complete the scope of appointment either in person or over the phone. So first we're going to see the beneficiary's end of the scope of appointment form. So we'll walk through and, select the products that they're willing to discuss, their attestation. And then we have the agent end of our scope of appointment as well. So if our initial method of contact was, over the phone or a meeting, we'll enter in that. The plans I'm going to be representing and our attestation as well. And then we can submit that form. So we can do this, over the phone, or now if we are in person, we're able to complete the scope of appointment. So I know with the all of you doing your in-person meetings, we can now do the scope without having to send it via email or text as we previously did. So that's a nice piece of functionality that we've built in as well. So from here, I can continue on and add preferences. Again, we'll see the length of the duration of the call that has been in progress and just confirm that we're still in session here. And then if I go along in the process, I can add the preferences. If we want to talk about our medical and prescription drug coverage that we're looking for, subsidy level question, if they are eligible for any help paying for their prescription drugs, and then we can continue on throughout. This should all look pretty familiar if you've been in the platform in past years. We're going to have the health status tab. So, well, generally healthy, some health needs or significant health needs, and we provide descriptions below to help you determine which category your client should fall into. And if we also knew for this year, if we want to estimate their medical costs, we can customize the potential benefit utilization so that we can see how the, maybe if we select update answers, maybe we're anticipating inpatient hospital care one time and stay in the hospital for 2 days. Maybe we're going to visit a specialty doctor 6 times this year. We're able to actually take a dynamic approach and change these benefit utilization change these benefit utilization fields to see how that's going to affect the medical costs for the plan shown. Essentially, I can go ahead and continue on throughout the process just as I would have previously and add their prescriptions with our smart lookup tool. So I'll go ahead and add a couple of drugs here. Lastly, we'll go ahead and add our pharmacies to see how the pharmacies may affect the cost. So if I want to compare between, maybe a CVS pharmacy, you can compare that against the cost for a Walgreens. We're able to add up to 3 pharmacies here, and we will have mail order cost options as well. And then let's just add one more. Now I can continue on to my plans list page. Still, my whole call is still in progress. Obviously, we'll be probably longer than 4 minutes to this point, but just for the sake of time, I want to show you how this is going to work on our recorded line. So our prescriptions that we've selected are not on formulary, but there may be savings available, so we can select that option. I can view the possible alternatives now. So this is another new feature. If we select a drug, obviously this is what we call, a non-covered drug alternative. So if we determine that the drug that we've selected is not covered by the plan shown, we can see if there are other drugs that are, therapeutic alternatives if the beneficiary wants to try to get that drug prescribed so that they can save on their drug costs for their plan. But once we determine that we do want to go ahead and enroll in a plan, we can select to add that plan to the cart. And now these recorded enrollments are going to be treated similar to, our in-person enrollment form. So we're going to do complete and submit the form myself, continue on to apply, and then we can go all the way through the enrollment on that recorded line. So this is going to be a very standard demo enrollment form. So I do want to note that, the carriers are going to have different enrollment forms than what you'll see here, but this should all look familiar. Again, if you've used the process before that, we can go ahead and go through the enrollment. And if there's going to be any disclaimers or anything like that, like for the call recording, that will be up to carriers here. So go ahead and end this call for the sake of the demo here, and then I'll show you back on the client profile, just so that you can know that your call was recorded. You will see notes here on the right-hand side that you did initiate a call recording with the beneficiary with the date stamp there. The admin users at iPros are going to have access to those recordings within the platform as well. So I'm logged in as an admin. They'll be able to see the list of recordings that have been done for an associated beneficiary profile. So that is one thing to note. The admin users only will have access to those recordings. I want to take a pause to see if there are any other questions that have come through.
Let me check. Hold on. So let me see. We have a question. What happens when they choose not to be recorded? Is the call connected then as well, or is it disconnected? So that was, I'll answer that question, and David, chime in if you want. That's what Sandy mentioned. If they choose not to be recorded, then you can just proceed, right? Without recording.
So I'll step in just because I think with this using our recorded line, if they decline to be recorded, they're going to be asked to press 1 to agree to be recorded. I will confirm, but I believe the call will not connect through if they do not agree to be recorded there. But let me confirm that one.
Oh, got it. Oh, I see. I was thinking about it differently, but yeah, that makes sense. Joseph is asking, wouldn't this recording make redundant the scope of appointment? Could you just agree on the topics to talk?
I believe Sandy alluded to this earlier in the presentation, but you still need to have a scope on file. So whether you do that in person, over the phone, if you send it out to them ahead of a meeting, you still will need to have a scope of appointment, whether it seems like it's redundant or not.
Yeah, the scope of appointment as authorization of you contacting them, and then the recording when you're discussing the benefits. So the recording is still going to serve its purpose. Next question is from Sandra. You mentioned we need the disclaimer on our websites. Will you provide verbiage for both general disclaimer section and also the call to action, i.e. call to schedule an appointment that meets the standard? Yes, Sandy, we can go ahead and provide that to you. As Juan said, it's simple verbiage that you need to include on the website. So we can definitely provide that to you. Couple more questions. Since the call is being recorded, do we complete the SOA and app signature ourselves, or do we still send it to be completed by the beneficiary?
You will be able to do either. So if you want to send the enrollment form over to be signed and not do it, on a recorded call, you can do that. Or if you want to continue on a recorded enrollment and do the enrollment over the phone, you will be able to keep that call in session. Again, you'll need to select the complete and submit the form myself and go through the enrollment form over the phone. The carriers will have the required options for completing that enrollment over the phone.
Melba's asking, is this software is coming from iPros? Yes, Health Plan Card is our Connecture account. So Jason is actually representing Connecture, which is a company that hosts this enrollment platform. But Health Plan Card is the iPros account. Next question is, seems like to record a call, we have to call the given number, correct? How about when the client calls you, how do we record this call?
Yeah, so this is going to be recording any outbound calls you make from the system itself. So when you start that call recording, you'll have your own specific phone number, which I see another question below. I just want to clarify that phone number will not be the same phone number for every agent. That will be the phone. You will each have your own toll-free phone number that will be the same that you call out or that you use anytime. So just want to clarify that. If the client calls you, that phone number that is associated with this technology is only outbound calling. So if they call you on, it's not using your personal phone or desk phone or anything like that, you will say, I would imagine, this call needs to be recorded. Let me give you a call on my recorded line is one way I think that you would go about that.
And as Jason said, this phone number is unique to each agent. But if a client calls that number, that will not connect the call to you. That's very important for you to know, and also tell your clients, because if you're calling them from this 888 number and for whatever reason they say, okay, this is Jason's number or this is agent X number, right? They're going to keep it on their phone. So you have to make sure that you give them your contact number where they can reach you, but also give them the heads up that you're going to be calling them from this number so that they know it's you, as it's going to be a toll-free number. we have a few more questions, and then you can continue, and then we can start with the questions again. But next question is, once a beneficiary declines being recorded, do we need to ask the same question every time there's a call from him or her?
Once a beneficiary.
What was that?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that would probably be a takeaway, maybe an interpretation of the guideline. I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay, so we'll get back to you on that, Maria. Melba, so agents will have their phone number. We have already addressed that. Yes, every agent will have an assigned number. However, the clients cannot contact you there, will not connect the call to you. Another question, how does this requirement apply to text emails from and to a beneficiary?
I believe this is just for phone calls that need to be recorded. Obviously, with texts and emails, if you're communicating in a different way, not really a way to record that per se, like audio. So I believe it's just going to be for the phone calls.
Correct. So go ahead, and Jason, if you need to continue the session.
Yeah, one other thing, I know it was touched on in the first half of the session. If you're out in the field, right, you can still log in on your mobile device browser to this platform and utilize the technology through that device. It is going to be utilizing whatever device you're working off of, that speaker and microphone. So, it's not going to be cellular connectivity with a cell phone, but you can use your cell phone if you're logged in on the platform. So just want to be clear on that it will, the platform does fully render to whatever device type you are working on. You just need to be logged in and on an associated profile to initiate that call recording.
Perfect. We have a few more questions. Patty is asking, my Medicare clients are from our own book of business that are aging in. My staff usually are the ones that follow up and schedule appointments as they get closer. They are not licensed. Do they have to record the calls as well?
That is, probably a more of a compliance question than the technology question. I would defer to the CMS rule or I don't know how to answer that question with that use case.
Yeah, well, I think it's also a compliance question, so we'll get back to you on that, Patty. Another question from Justin. Does this apply to post-enrollment follow-up calls or strictly to the enrollment process calls?
Again, seems like, it is any call with the beneficiary for, pre-enrollment. That would also be, I think, a compliance question if you have to record follow-up calls post-enrollment. I don't have the answer to that.
Another question. Are we required to record every single phone call with the client or just the initial phone call?
It's every phone call, not just the initial call to set an appointment. Any call, anytime that you are on a call with the beneficiary. So I would say, better to record more than less with this new ruling. Obviously, we're all still learning a lot about it, but it is required to record all calls, and you can, you're not limited to just one recording per beneficiary on this platform. Anytime, you start a new call, it'll add it to the notes so you can have a running list of what calls have been recorded.
Correct. Lou, if you can go ahead and send your question. I know that people are raising their hands. Mirna submitted the question already, but Lou keeps raising her hand. But if you can send that question through the Q&A box or the chat box, it doesn't matter. We can read both of them. Does anybody have any other questions? And we apologize if we don't have all the answers for you at this session. As you know, this is a brand new topic for all of us. There's a lot of interpretations out there. As Sandy mentioned, a lot of the things are ambiguous, but we'll do our best. And I think it's probably worth doing a follow-up session to this so that we can answer all the other questions. And a lot of these questions are really good questions that, you know, we don't really have answers to for the moment, but just stay tuned for any updates on this topic. We have another question. It's all calls follow. I guess she was just mentioning. So Farnas is saying it's all calls, follow-up, service, and enrollment. Text and email need to have the disclaimer. Thank you for that information, Farnas. So again, all calls need to be recorded, whether it's a follow-up, service, or enrollment calls. And then text and email need to have the disclaimer. And the website as well. Perfect. Anything else you would like to add, Jason?
No, we're excited to be rolling out this call recording feature. Appreciate everyone's time and questions today. And we will certainly have, I think, some follow-up sessions to this as well.
Perfect. I have a question, or Yingming Peng was asking before you started about how these calls get tied to the beneficiary, and you demonstrated that, but just to reiterate, you're starting the call from their client's profile. So correct. When you're doing that, that is saving that recording to the profile. Okay.
Correct.
And also they're being stored in the platform, in the health plan cart platform. And if you ever need to download that, you would have to let us know, because we need to request that from the Connecture team, correct?
Twofold, yeah. So your admin users, Rodrigo, will have access to download them. And then if it's, in subsequent years, we are going to hold on to them for 10 years. If you need to produce it at a later date, we will be able to provide that for you.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, the agents in a sense have to request it from us, and then we're admin, so we can provide that recording to the client. So again, it's upon request. Another question. So apps without a recording attached will not be accepted by Medicare. Jose, again, I think this is more related to compliance. It's expected from you now, since this is a new requirement by CMS, that all of the calls are being recorded. So just like you are filling out scope of appointments, you also need to record. And I think Sandy mentioned this. It's not like Medicare or CMS is going to be listening to the recordings to make sure that you explained everything properly. This is a compliance thing, that if the health plan requires for you to provide the copy of that recording, then you need to do so, and in case of an audit per se. Edward Peng, do you have app recommendation for incoming calls? We don't yet, but we will look into that to recommend for our agents. Mirna is asking, this requirement applies for existing clients as well. We have already answered that. That does apply for your existing clients. Lucy Chavez is asking, is the call feature active now or until October in Connecture? That will be effective 10/1, correct?
Correct. Yep. It will be going live for the 2023 platform, the login for 2023. So you will have this feature on 10/1, and then
correct. So
live on 10/15.
So just to clarify, I know that probably some people in this webinar don't have a health plan card account. And also for the ones that do, remember that every year there's a new site. So the site is going to look the same, but you need to log in using a different page, a different landing page. And as you can see on the top left of Jason's screen, it says 2023. So that's a good way to know. Jason's there highlighting it for you guys. That's a way for you to differentiate the 2023 that you're in the right site. And also we're changing how the login page looks so that you don't get confused with the current site and the upcoming site. So you might want to actually save the 2022 site on your favorites. I'm pretty sure most of you already do. And also the 2023 site so that you don't confuse them. Is there any other questions? I know that we're already at the hour, so it's 11 a.m. If you have any questions, please go ahead and send them now. So we have a couple more minutes left. If not, go ahead and submit those questions to Connecture at iProsTeam.com. I can actually type it on the chat as we speak. It is Connecture at iProsTeam.com. If you have any questions about the recording features, even about your health plan card account, you can reach us at that email. So I typed it in on the email. Again, it's Connecture at iProsTeam.com. We have a question. Or I guess Sandy's just thanking us for the information, and then we'll be preparing for this annual enrollment period. Carmen, yes, we've addressed that. So yeah, the calls are also supposed to be recording for existing clients. Patty's asking, what if the client decides to choose another carrier not contracted with iPros? So if you're using the health plan card to record the call, and you have already taken care of that part of the recording, then you can do the enrollment on paper, correct, Jason? I mean, they can use Connecture to record, and then if the client doesn't have an email or whatever the scenario might be, then they can just go ahead and complete the enrollment.
If they're, I mean, the call you can still record, any call here. If you're going elsewhere to enroll, the carriers may have recording built for maybe a plan that's not available on the iPros platform right now. So if you're not enrolling in a plan on the iPros platform, I would, I think technically you can continue a recording on here, but as far as how you complete that recording, whether it be in person, on paper, or over the phone using their platform, there may be other options as well.
Well, it's 11:02. Thank you very much for everyone joining today. Hopefully all this information was helpful. I know it was helpful for me as well. There's a lot of things that we still don't know, but we all get used to it. I'll get used to this new process. All of the agents out there in the field, and I think health plan card feature, a recording feature, will make it easier. I think it's super easy to use, and it's all in one place. So please continue using your health plan card account. David, do you want to add anything so we can close out the session? Maybe David is not even there. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a nice day, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jason.